Was this trilogy of reviews unexpected or what? I'm so sorry. Oh my god. Welcome to my continuation of Lord of the Rings reviews, guys. I have already gone through every single original Lord of the Rings movie over here on the channel. They're all a perfect A+ grade. It was a lot of fun talking about those. But now it's time to move on to the Hobbit trilogy in the build-up to the Rings of Power TV series coming out on Amazon Prime. Let's go ahead and get it started with An Unexpected Journey, once again directed by Peter Jackson. It came out in the year 2012 in a December where everybody was a little bit on edge. Probably had something to do with the year or something like that, I don't know. But joking aside, the goal of An Unexpected Journey and its two sequels were basically to set up the important events of the Lord of the Rings trilogy that we all know and love from the early 2000s. Here, our central character is Bilbo Baggins, who's played by Martin Freeman, and he lives a simple life with his fellow hobbits in the Shire until the wizard Gandalf the Grey, once again played by Ian McKellen, arrives, and he convinces him to join a group of dwarves on a quest to reclaim the kingdom of Erebor. The unexpected journey, as it were, takes Bilbo on a path through treacherous lands swarming with orcs, goblins, and other dangers. This includes an encounter with Gollum, once again played by Andy Serkis, which I'll talk about, as well as a simple gold ring, which I'm sure is not powerful in the slightest and incredibly useless. I just pissed off so many Lord of the Rings geeks over here. Now, it's pretty crystal clear that the Hobbit movies are nowhere near the level of the original Lord of the Rings movies. They don't hold a candle to any of those three instant classics. But Peter Jackson came in with his vision and he wanted lightning to strike twice here. Now, initially when this movie came out, lots of Lord of the Rings fans were incredibly concerned, and rightfully so, because that original trilogy was so masterfully done. And then they see reviews for An Unexpected Journey are incredibly mixed, and then it just sort of leads them into a deep pit of despair. Well, I'm here to tell you that there are some things to enjoy about The Unexpected Journey, namely the acting. I think Martin Freeman is a very enjoyable main character in Bilbo. He's kind of an OCD freak when you meet him initially. And this might just be me, but with my OCD the way it is, I kind of related to him a lot. Arguably even more so than Frodo in the original trilogy. And that may be a hot take, but I really enjoyed Bilbo as a protagonist. I think Martin Freeman does a really good job. But without a doubt, the show stealer is definitely Ian McKellen as Gandalf the Grey. It was so cool to see this guy doing his thing again in one of his most iconic roles. And not to mention, he is an incredibly badass character, especially in these battle sequences, which are freaking epic. Towards the latter half of this movie, when you actually get on the battlefield with all these dwarves, especially Thorin, who is the most fleshed out of any of the dwarves here, such a cool character. Yeah, this does lead me into my first issue though, doesn't it? Thorin pretty much is exactly parallel to Aragorn, and it's honestly, like, come on, it's way too similar. The king of the dwarves who's coming back to reclaim his birthright. Aragorn is also a king coming back to reclaim his birthright. I understand this is just a prequel, but if you're just a casual viewer, you knew nothing about what J.R.R. Tolkien did with these books. If you were a casual viewer going in to watch The Hobbit in 2012, you would think like, didn't I see this before? But Thorin is really awesome, all things considered, in these big battle sequences, which are a spectacle to look at. I never saw this in the 48 frames per second, so I wasn't as overly distracted by these battle sequences as a lot of other people were. And once again, Howard Shore gives us some brilliant musical undertones that add to the sheer epicness of this film. And now the epicness does lead me into my biggest issue with An Unexpected Journey, and you probably know what it is by this point. It's the pacing. Even just on a rewatch here, that first hour and a half, I was bored out of my mind. And that's honestly because nothing really eventful happens in that first act. This is pretty much Exposition City, the first part of An Unexpected Journey, which I completely get it. You know, this is the first movie in a big world sort of trilogy. There's a lot of setup going on, and this is based off of a big book by J.R.R. Tolkien. But how do I want to frame this? If any of you guys have ever read Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, that's the longest in the Harry Potter series, at almost 900 pages. And the movie was whittled down to just a hair under 2.5 hours. Now, how in the heck did these writers do it? I'll tell you why. It's because those screenwriters pretty much was looking at the grand scheme of things and the theme of the movie version of Order of the Phoenix. And then they omitted a lot of things that really didn't relate to that theme whatsoever. Once they did that, They had a much more well-rounded structure, and that's one of my favorite movies in the Harry Potter franchise as a whole. As much as I love Dobby and everything like that, I did not need to see him leading a labor union in Order of the Phoenix. I didn't need to see Hermione advocating for their rights or whatever, as important as that is. Admit it, if that was included in Order of the Phoenix, you would probably think that would have dragged the plot of that movie down even more. And The Hobbit pretty much makes that mistake throughout the entirety of that first hour. Now, I realize there's a bunch of you who are going to want to go down there in the comments and be like, haha, Zach, you're just so uneducated because you are just not realizing that these are all just events from the book and they need to be true. Yeah, but if you're looking at it from a movie standpoint, all these scenes that you're referring to could have just been placed on the extended cuts. They felt more like deleted scenes. They felt more like extras on the DVD rather than a final entry into a theater. I don't know, guys. The pacing was just really, really off. But once you get to that final hour of An Unexpected Journey, that's where the movie gets really, really amazing. Spoilers ahead, you get the big final battle, which is obligatory in a Lord of the Rings movie. You get the resuscitation of Thorin, which is such an enthralling and emotional moment in and of itself. And then you have my favorite scene of them all. Bilbo and Gollum's battle of wits in the cavern. Not only are these two actors, Freeman and Andy Serkis, just mesmerizing to watch in here, the CGI on Gollum has certainly improved from a decade off, and the dialogue in here is just so compelling. It's almost like you're watching a big old giant chess match in the caves here. And the way these two characters feed off of each other, I could watch that scene for hours and hours and hours on end. I tell you what, if that cavern scene was the entire movie, my final grade for this probably would be a lot higher. Because aside from that scene, the acting throughout and the brilliant production values that came from the original Lord of the Rings saga, I don't know, guys, that first act's pacing really does drag the movie down for me. I'm gonna go ahead and give The Hobbit An Unexpected Journey a B. Certainly not the most rewatchable of the Lord of the Rings saga. You gotta commend Peter Jackson and his direction and his passion. But yeah, watch this movie basically for that scene I was referring to between Bilbo and Gollum. Also watch it for Bilbo, Gandalf, and Thorin all put together. That is the big trifecta that we'll be focusing on. The ending of this film also brought us a lot of promise for our next movie we're going to be talking about, which is The Desolation of Smaug. And I cannot wait to bring you guys that review and so much more over here. If you're a new viewer, do consider smashing that subscribe button on your way out and click on that notification bell. That way you don't miss another second of the action from this point forward. And also, if you don't mind, feel free to hit that thumbs up button on your way out. That would be tremendous, tremendous help. Because if we got a lot of catching up to do, I will be opening up my next theater project next Friday. So please bear with me as I put out these next reviews. I'm going to put out the Desolation of Smaug review as soon as I possibly can. But this upcoming weekend, I'm going to be watching Beast starring Idris Elba in theaters. That looks like a lot of fun. I haven't watched the new Fall movie yet, but I've been kind of interested in seeing it. Are any of you guys interested in hearing my thoughts on it? Go ahead and leave a comment down below if you guys want me to review Fall. If you guys have any other requests for retro reviews, I am more than game for it. Because last I checked my calendar, Halloween season is coming up. So I'm still looking for ideas to pad out my Halloween playlist that I'm already putting together. All for the fun, my friends. Thank you guys so very much again for your continuous support. So with all that being said, back talk, commence!